Chapter 2. On Laughter. Monday, the first day after the Easter break. It was warm, bright. I opened the windows in my consulting room a little, and then went out to get my last patient of the morning. Lily stood up as soon as she heard me. "It's such a relief to be back here," she said. "I had a crazy time at home." Lily had just returned from a trip to New York to visit her parents with her 9-month-old daughter, Alice. The flight from London had been terrible. After navigating her way through the New York airport with Alice and all of their belongings, she found her mother standing outside on the sidewalk. "She hugged me the way she always does," Lily said. "She closes her eyes and pats my back, as if I have fleas." Her mother opened the car door, and Monty, her slobbering 50-pound golden retriever, jumped out. "He pushes his nose into my jeans, which is sort of embarrassing, and I'm wondering why she's brought a dog to the airport. It's not like they have a station wagon. My mom says, I thought this would be a good way to introduce them to each other. So Alice is in her car seat in the back, I'm next to her, and Monty is up front riding shotgun." Throughout the visit, neither of Lily's parents showed much interest in her life. They left their 2 televisions blaring and ate their meals crammed around the kitchen counter. Her father often ate with his laptop propped open next to his plate. On my last night, after 3 glasses of wine, I tell my parents that when I get back to London I'm going to send them 1,000 photos of Alice. You have to understand, there are photos in every room of the house. There's a whole flotilla of photos on the grand piano, but nowhere is there a single photo of their first grandchild. And my mum says, "Oh my gosh, didn't you see it? It's my favorite." And she goes into the bedroom, rummages around in the dresser, and pulls out a picture of Alice. She smiles and says, "Oh, I love that picture." Then my dad says, "Oh, I love that picture." And then I say, "Oh, I love it too." But I'm thinking, what the fuck? Does she think I have X-ray eyes? I stifled a laugh. Lily was quiet for a moment. "My last night there, I had a strange dream. It was a nightmare, actually. What happened was upsetting, but I didn't feel upset." In the dream, Lily was in a group of people standing by a lake. She watched a small girl swim out to a wooden raft. The girl struggled, but was able to make it and to pull herself up. There was a flash of lightning and a clap of thunder. The girl was in danger, but no one was concerned. Where was the little girl's mother, her father? Lily asked her parents to watch Alice, and she swam out to the girl. The lake was black and choppy. It was a struggle to keep the girl's head above water. When they got back onto the shore, Lily lifted the girl out of the water, and then saw that her parents were standing there alone. Alice was nowhere to be seen. Lily was sure that the last bit, "Alice was nowhere to be seen," must have been about the tucked-away photograph. But what about the rest of it? "Does the dream remind you of anything?" I asked. It reminded her of the lake near her old boarding school. Every autumn, 1 or 2 of the new students were tossed in the lake by some of the older boys. The boys tended to pick the cockiest boys and the prettiest girls. Those first weeks at boarding school, when she was so homesick, she was kind of pleased to be chosen. In the weeks that followed, some of the older girls in her dorm sought her out. They teased her about sex and tried to persuade her to visit one of the senior boys in his room. Lily was 14 and had never kissed a boy. One evening after dinner, a senior girl took her into the toilets and taught her how to make herself sick by sticking her fingers down her throat. "It's like giving head. Just open up and take it in," the girl told her. Boarding school got more and more overwhelming. Lily consoled herself with the thought that she was bright and would do well, that in the next year or 2 she'd get a boyfriend, fall in love. Everything would work out. But it wasn't happening like that. Lily had trouble eating and sleeping. She never missed a class, but she felt increasingly frantic. I didn't get depressed. I just went faster and faster. The wheels started to come off the bus. I couldn't keep my head above water. So the girl in the dream is you, I said. But if that's me, how can I look after Alice? That may be what the dream is about. Lily admitted that she had found it difficult to stay focused on Alice when she was with her parents. During her stay, she'd regressed. She'd felt less and less like her grown-up self, less and less like the mother she was. It was like, where the kidnapped victim forgets the outside world and starts to think like their captor. Stockholm Syndrome. It occurred to me that Lily was reworking her visit home into a series of comic bits. At every turn in the narrative, just when I expected her to tell me that she'd felt hurt or upset, I got a punchline. As if I have fleas. Does she think I have X-ray eyes? From the pavement outside, through the open window, came the sound of children shouting and giggling on their way to a nearby playground. As Lily and I waited for the children to pass, I found myself thinking about the word punchline. Its violence is so out in the open. Was it from Punch and Judy? A few months earlier, just before Christmas, one of the local shops had hired a Punch and Judy puppet show. My children and I stood and watched the show. Judy went out, leaving Mr. Punch at home to look after the baby. As always, the chaotic Mr. Punch forgot about the baby, sat on the baby, even eventually bit the baby. Judy returned. The stick was fetched, and the knockabout began. I was freezing and wanted to go home. My children were captivated. We stayed till the end. One of the problems with your joking is that we can feel as if we've talked about something that troubles you. Your arrival at the airport, Alice's photo being kept in the dresser, and we have talked about it, but it hasn't really been dealt with, I said. If I didn't laugh about their stuff, I'd be angry most of the time. Your jokes are aggressive. You get your revenge, and you feel a bit better. Your humor seems to work. You don't hurt so much afterwards, but you also seem to lose the drive to better understand the situation. My jokes diffuse my anger, but they diffuse it to the point that I just accept my parents' behavior. I stop thinking about it. Exactly, I said. Lily paused, and then said she wasn't so sure. She did think about the situation with her parents. It was a nightmare, but there wasn't anything that could be done. The word nightmare reminded me of her dream. I told her I was struck by the thing she'd said just before describing it. It was a nightmare. What happened was upsetting, but I didn't feel upset. I said, the aim of the dream might have been to reassure yourself that you can be in a nightmare and yet not feel it. Not just keep your head above water, but numb yourself to your parents' lack of concern. Can you imagine what would happen if I didn't numb myself? She asked. If my parents knew what I thought, it would be the end of what remains of our relationship. I don't have the skill to discuss with them the things that bother me. It'd all go wrong. My mum would deny that she was doing anything aggressive. She'd say, "It's just a photo, honey." Her voice trailed off. "It works, Mr. Gross. It works." Early in her psychoanalysis, I'd noticed that Lily's voice went up at the end of sentences, even when she wasn't asking a question. This inflection put pressure on me to speak. At the time, we figured out that this was because my silences made her uneasy. She wanted me to speak, so as to hear in my voice if I agreed with her or not. I told Lily that I thought she might want me to laugh for similar reasons. My laughter meant that we were in agreement, that we were the good guys, and her parents the bad guys. My laughter absolved her of guilt. She didn't have to feel bad about making fun of her parents. She told me it was a relief when I laughed, and then she was silent. Neither of us spoke for some time. I began to assume that Lily had looked at her wristwatch and decided, as there were only a few moments left, to stop for the day. I felt she'd left the room. And then she said, "I was remembering my breakdown at boarding school, the experience of calling home in the middle of the night from a payphone behind the dorm, the bugs buzzing around the fluorescent light. I was crying hysterically, 'Please, can I come home? Please, can I come home?' and being told, 'No, you can't come home.' Then, as things got worse and worse and worse, I forced myself to stay. But something had changed in me. My breakdown was like a furnace, and what was burned away was my belief in my own feelings." As I listened to her memory, I also heard her dream. The girl was in danger, but no one was concerned. Where was the little girl's mother? Her father? She went on, "Even now it's very hard for me to trust my feelings, but when you laugh, it means you believe my feelings, my reality. When you laugh, I know that you see things exactly the way I do. That you wouldn't have said no. You'd have let me come home."